22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.
And are not afraid to say it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is BlackWestchester.com presents the People Before Politics radio show. 6 to 8 every Sunday night on InTheMixRadio.com, and giving you that real talk for the community since 2014. I want to start off just real quick. I want to say a couple of things real quick. Said a couple of things. First off, to all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day. To anybody celebrating mothers, to all the mothers out there, to all those that are mothers to other people's kids, just happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Okay, just want to say that, and everybody celebrate with their mother. Cherish that time. Cherish that time. Because ain't nobody promised tomorrow. Secondly, I really just want to, and I'm going to make this real quick because I did finally speak to the person. But, people, I keep saying, if I'm not bothering you, leave me alone. I am tired of people saying that things happened that did not happen. Things were said. Accusations was made today that members of this radio show had said some negative comments about the immigrants and that they should go back where they came from. Anybody who listens to this show knows that this show has been a big advocate for immigrant rights as well as an advocate for a lot of other things. Nobody on this show would come off like that. I wouldn't have anybody on the show who would say anything of that nature. And again, I've talked to several people. If you have my phone number, these are the people I have the most biggest problem with. If you have my phone number and you've called me and we've had dialogue, you hear something like that and you just take for granted that somebody's telling you the truth and you don't talk to me about it, F you. I have no respect for that. You call me for everything else, but you just blatantly gonna take somebody's word, and they showed you no proof. Every show is there's a video of every show. So like it would be proof that these things were said. Like show me a recording. Like don't come at me and you the people that's talking to you, they didn't even show you nothing. And show you where, and the person who talked to me today admitted she doesn't listen to the show, she doesn't read the paper, and she don't check the website. So you know what? I have no love for none of that. Like I just was pissed off. This happened like about an hour and a half ago, and that's the only reason I'm addressing it. And I'm just gonna be like, if you got something to say, I'm gonna say what I feel. And if I've said something, and I've said some things that have offended some people, because that's how I felt. But if I said something then I'm wrong, I'm gonna acknowledge that I was wrong. But don't come at me with something that you have no proof I don't know what that was. Cynthia just said, "Too late, I'm snitching." LOL. I don't know what you're talking about, but I did mention it to her earlier too. That the person tried to say that. Look out for an article she has in the next paper that's coming out this week. The NRA is going after the head of Mothers Demand Action Against Senseless Gun Violence or something like that. I don't remember the whole name of the group. Mothers Demand Action. So the head of the NRA, because she called them out on some position they had, and they basically told everybody on Twitter to hit her up and encouraged negative comments, which led to several death threats. And you know, I put her on in this issue specifically because, as you heard in the beginning of this show, as that Malcolm X clip from his speech, his April 3rd, 1964 speech, "The Ballad or the Bullet," the end of that says, "And they're not afraid to say it." And anybody who's not going to be afraid to say it and is going to speak truth to power, I'm going to big them up. So shout out to Shannon. What is her last name? Somebody help me. Cynthia, somebody help me. She is the founder of Moms Demand Action. And we did a whole page on her. And Cynthia also wrote part of that article because Cynthia is part of the Westchester chapter of Moms Demand Action. So I want, as we deal with national issues, it's always good that you put a local, get a local spin on it as well. Shout out to everybody who's on the show. What are you saying to me? Okay. No. Shout out to everybody checking out the show. Lisa Clark, Norman, Cynthia Turnquest Jones, your daughter. Say hello to your daughter.
Hi, Taina.
Taina. I want to mess your name up.
Happy Mother's Day.
Cynthia Greaves. So Cynthia Turnquest. So on December 15th, 2012, Moms Demand Action for Better Gun Sense in America. That's the whole name. Was established by at-home mom Shannon Watts, and she organized starting on a Facebook page. So shout out to Shannon Watts for speaking truth to power, for calling out the NRA for their hypocritical views and the points that she made. And I bigged her up as this month's spotlight for speaking truth to power. Cicely Greaves said greetings, AJ, and to all the listeners. Shout out to Omi Medina. Oscar Davis Jr. Is he the nephew of Sammy Davis Jr.? No, I'm sorry. Jeff Monroe. I said that. I know I'm going to hear that from Oscar later. Alita Johnson, Matumbo Muhammad, DJ Nesto from Virginia, always tuned in. Shout out to him. Chris Breezy, saw him yesterday at Brush Park. We'll talk briefly about that. Judge Adrian Armstrong has a piece in this month's paper too, that everybody needs to read. Shout out to Caitlin Gleason and Uncle Frank, and everybody else who is tuned in. And without further ado, let me introduce our co-host of the show. We have Dr. Bob, a.k.a. Dr. Robert Baskerville, Ph.D., a.k.a. Brooklyn Bob, in the place to be, pulling out the little brush put a little brush action real quick, and back by popular demand, we have the lovely Lorraine Lopez. Missed last week. She is live in living color and in the building. Let me turn your mics on real quick. Say hello to the people.
Hey, people. Okay, Happy Mother's Day to all the beautiful queens out there.
Good evening, everybody. Shout out to my cousin Tony Robinson. Happy Mother's Day to your mom. What's going on, cousin? Shout out to Kevin Bunch. So real quick before I get into yesterday. So yesterday, was it yesterday? We was running around all day yesterday, and yes. They had the sign up for softball or something at Brush Park, which was a thing that it was good to see everybody who showed up. I ran into Jeff Dixon. For all of y'all know, Jeff Dixon used to be the manager and for Grand Pooba and Brand Nubians, and now is vice president of Disturb the Peace. His younger brother Shaka runs Disturb the Peace, which is a Ludacris label, and all the stuff that Ludacris does, in the movies and all that. So his brother, his little brother brought him up, and shout out to Shaka. Shout out to Jeff. Jeff was in the house. He's in Westchester for a couple of days. I got to try to get up with him before he leaves. Shout out. It was good to see a lot of people who've seen the other brother we was talking to in the parking lot, Sean Gray. Sean Gray. It was good to see Sean Gray in the place. We're going to definitely have him on the show sometime after the primary, after we get past all the politics. Alita Johnson, happy Mother's Day, Lorraine.
Thank you.
And who else we saw? Of course, Dwayne Brown, who's very active with the whole baseball, softball thing.
Congrats to Dwayne.
Yes, I think he's been involved for several years. Seen a bunch of other brothers. Just good to see everybody I saw out there. It was good to see you. Mayor Thomas wanted me to get hit with that ball yesterday. So I was walking past. I was walking right, and I'm walking like.
What happened, AJ? Talk to us.
I'm walking like where he's standing, but trying to, and then they were throwing a ball back and forth in the part of the grass, and somebody with Mayor Thomas was like, "Yo, AJ, watch out, watch your head." So I ducked to the side real quick, and I know I could hear, and he didn't say it, and this is just me. He didn't say it, but I know he yelled at his dude like, "Why you say anything? You should have let him get hit in the head." I know Mayor Thomas was thinking that.
Really? Did it come that close to you?
Well, I moved and it didn't hit me, but it was heading in my direction.
Oh.
Like the person threw it and it was just in my direction, and the person next to him was like, "Yo, watch out, AJ," and told me. I don't know if he got an earful after that for telling me, but appreciate my man for telling me. Some of the candidates were out yesterday. Andre Wallace, Joyce Davis, and Sean Patterson Howard. Joyce Brown. Whoa. See, I'm thinking Oscar Davis Jr., and I'm thinking, and my joke for Sammy Davis Jr. that I'm not going to hear the end of, and I'm calling everybody Davis now. Joyce Brown. I thought
it was Angela who you thinking of.
Oh, Angela Davis. There you go.
That's what it is.
Real quick, too, before going back, Angela Davis, last time I saw Angela Davis, it was an interview with her and Common. I just saw an interview with Common on MSNBC. Very good. Got a book coming out. Very inspirational book. He talks about some stuff that happened to him in his life, and I was really moved by the thing. He was like, "Yo, a lot of times as celebrities, we show the good time, the good side, all the flash. He got an Oscar, he's got an Emmy, he's got a number of Grammys. You know what I'm saying? But there's other sides, and he had an incident happen to him in his childhood that he had, I guess, put to the back of his mind, and it was in doing a movie scene with somebody that he realized. He was like, I think something like that happened to me, and it just brought up all of that stuff.
Snap.
And I think he was molested or something as a child, and he talks about it.
Oh, wow.
And he feels like because of who he is, by him talking about it will empower some other people that are it happening to be able to speak up and to, like if Common can admit it out in the public, you owe it. And this part of the book is about that. And he was on Ari Melba's
Melba.
You can see what's the show called, The Beat. You can see the full interview on msnbc.com/The Beat. And I encourage everybody, if you can, check it out and go support Common's book. That's my homeboy Common. I haven't seen him in a long time, but it's my homeboy. Kevin Bunch, hey guys, listening and supporting, appreciate you. Good to see you, Lorraine. Cicely said, the Future Society always checked in. Don Starchild, more in the place to be. Shout out to Charlie Khalil. So anything else on Brush Park before I move on? You was there with me at the Brush Park.
Nope. I had an enjoyable time. It was good to see all of Mount Vernon.
Jamie Peston, that was another candidate. I didn't want to forget all the candidates. And he actually was there, so let me not forget him.
Jamie, he's a candidate?
Jamie is city council candidate.
Really?
Yes. And the mayor had a motorcade with a bunch of several cars. And let me just say this real quick, because some people are saying, "Oh, the mayor got a motorcade. He didn't get a permit." He actually did get a permit. His sister Melissa went and got paid for the permit, got the permit for him, so they had a permit for their thing.
Caravan. They had like a caravan.
Yeah, through the thing. But I think there's some conflict about whether he had permission to use a police escort and city vehicle. So I don't know the story on that, but a lot of people are making a big deal about that from yesterday. And there were some pictures that have been floating around
Oh my God!
with Joe Spezio and police with the police joints on and everything.
Oh yeah, we saw that.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
That from on 4th Avenue, right in front of there's
Hold on.
pictures.
Since you mean like
Yesterday,
within the past few days?
No, from yesterday.
Well,
From yesterday.
that would be unfortunate.
So there was people talking about that. I think.
I seen the picture.
Yeah, so one of them watchdogs or one of them, what the fucks, one of those
Yeah,
Facebook groups.
Can I
posted the whole
just
thing.
say
Go ahead,
right before the show, I was sitting in the car talking to a reporter from another station, and he said that tonight there's going to be 3 different stories that are going to be blockbuster stories coming out of Mount Vernon with pictures, and he says there's 3 different stories. And he said none of them are good.
Okay, well, breaking news, which Lorraine just told you, news at 11 or whenever. Guess we will see that. John Starchild Moore said, "What's up?" And yes, Caitlin, I did hear that they announced that because I've been hearing this for the last couple of years, but I hadn't seen it that they were going to redo Brush Park with money from Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball has this organization, I forgot what it's called, and they do stuff with baseball with parks. But I heard about that I first heard about that when I think Ernie was either when Ernie was mayor, I did a story, or when Rich first became mayor. But I know I did a story on this a couple of years ago that that there was supposed to be something in place with the Major League Baseball. I don't think it has happened yet. I think they did one field or something at the time. I guess they're going to do the whole park, so I'm not sure what all the information is on that. Hezzy, I cannot talk to you right now if you can hear me.
Speaking of,
but
that's
Hezzy,
that's not a coincidence.
Hezzy, if you would like to call the show real briefly and talk about what you wanted to talk about, 718-705-4959, real quick, if you want to. And yes, Caitlin, yes, they did one field.
I have a question.
Can I?
Yes.
Hezzy wants to know who is the person in charge of the Mount Vernon IDA. Does anyone know?
So the mayor is the chairperson of the IDA.
The mayor's the chairperson.
It is the mayor.
Yes.
Yeah, the mayor's the chairperson, and I believe Maria Donovan.
But she's gone.
Oh, is she? She's no longer.
Yeah, she was
gone.
when that story came out. She hasn't been
she's
involved
gone.
since that day. Even though the mayor denied
But she's
that
still
this-
in the Mount Vernon city government, correct?
I don't think so.
No, she's gone.
I've never heard a peep from her since that day, and she's not responded to any texts, and she always responded. And that's when Ernie Garcia started responding to all the texts.
Oh, I see.
They told me today that she was gone
So
permanently.
I wanted to
I just want to say RBI. That's the name of the Major League program that did one of the fields, and they did it in honor of Mariano Rivera. Excuse me, Yankee fans. Mariano's retirement. If I said his name wrong, I apologize. But y'all all know who I'm talking about, though.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So yeah, I was gonna just follow up on that story. So RBI is for reviving baseball in the inner cities. So I had an opportunity to talk to Dwayne Brown yesterday while we were at Brush Park, and asked him about the extent to which the Little League has partnered with RBI under Dwayne's leadership, and he told me that they had several meetings with the RBI program, and that I believe RBI has made grant contributions to Mount Vernon's Little League program, perhaps to Brush Park. I don't know exactly how they divvied up the money, but on the order of somewhere over $100,000, if not closer to 200,000. So, I know oftentimes we can be perceived as unsparing in our criticism of city officials and others who play a prominent role in our civic life. And I did want to give a shout out to Dwayne Brown. I know you and I both, and everyone with the show, has tried to be conscientious about maintaining civil relationships with people who may happen to be political adversaries, opponents, but still are dear friends.
Dwayne and me are cool. Dwayne,
Right.
That's my dude.
Right.
Like, no, and I just want to say real talk. So that's my
that's what I'm
dude. Like when I called him and Tammy was having a 50th birthday party, he came into the big balloon
Right,
thing.
I remember.
In front of that. And what else he did? That and something else for the family. And he's done a lot of things for a lot of other organizations. And we don't always see eye to eye, and we don't always take the same political stance on situations. But, I mean, even when he was supporting Clinton Young in 2015 and I was working on Richard Thomas's campaign, I mean, people was bugging out that we could still stay friends and have a conversation. Dude, I mean, like, yo, and let me just say this out loud, too. Because this is a conversation I had with old boy we was talking to when we first got there. When we first walked into the yard. That was in the class with me and Andre.
Pooh.
Yeah, so me and Pooh was talking. He was like, yo, people are making permanent enemies over a temporary situation. What I mean by that, so like all these people right now are talking all this stuff and making permanent enemies, and after June 25th, when the primary is over, like some of the things you said and things you did, you can't take back, and now you still got to live in Mount Vernon with all these people, and that goes with any other city. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not going to make a permanent enemy over a temporary situation. Even if your candidate gets in, what they going to 4, 8 years? If you're a Mount Vernon resident, you're a Mount Vernon resident for life. You still got to live in that city when they ain't in office no more. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yo, just because everybody has the right to support who they want to support. Everybody got the right to vote for who they want to vote for. Just because me and my co-host don't agree on every candidate either. You know what I'm saying? And every position, as far as politics and many other things are concerned. Me and Damon always don't see eye to eye on a lot of situations, but we talk and we build. You know what I'm saying? Yo, you can't not mess with somebody because they support somebody else, or you can't like make an enemy like go all out. Like people are going all out. Crazy stuff. You can't take this back. After the primary, what? You still got to walk these streets. You still got to see the same people. And you done made enemies for the rest of your life over some of the stuff you done said. That's what I'm saying. Shout to brother Arthur Muhammad. He said, peace to the PBP family. So that's what I just want to say.
Matter of fact,
go ahead.
Yeah, and brother Plummer. We saw Kenny Plummer.
Shout to Kenny Plummer. I didn't get a chance
at the field, and everyone knows that Kenny is a prominent supporter of Sean Patterson Howard in this upcoming election, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to see Kenny because I have developed a good relationship with him back from the previous campaign, and just had an opportunity to reassure him, not that he needs it, but just to let him know what my philosophy is, that I intend on maintaining civil relationships with everyone in the city of Mount Vernon. And I personally...
Who wants to be civil with us? Because we ain't going to remain civil. If you ain't civil with us, you know what I'm saying? I ain't going to really go there and, if you don't take it too far. But those who want to be civil with us, you know what I'm saying? Like, because we're not giving you a reason not to be civil. Now, you want a reason why I give you one.
Right, and I wanted to assure... Not that I wanted to assure anyone, but I just simply conveyed to Kenny that I try to be principled in my politics, and I'm not involved in, I don't do any of the dirty kind of rumor mongering, mudslinging kind of stuff. And I really hope, I said that to say that I hope everyone adopts a similar kind of policy, because it is important that our community be able to maintain some sense of cohesion once the election is over, even though passions can run high during this time. So,
shout to Caitlin Gleason said, yes, Dwayne has done an amazing job spearheading this, talking about the baseball. Mm-hmm. Shout to Kenny Plummer. Joseph Nigro said, hi. Yes, you did, Caitlin. Caitlin Gleason corrected me as Mariano Rivera. That's so I totally screwed up his name. Shout out to D. Wilson. She said, good evening, AJ Woodson, Lorraine Lopez, and Dr. Bob Robert Baskerville. Good evening, everyone. Shout out to another cousin of mine, Wayne Robinson Sr. Thanks for tuning in, cousin. Don Moore said it all comes with maturity. Shout out to Edgar Santana.
Edgar Santana.
Uncle Frank said, good evening all. Hello, Lorraine.
Hello, Uncle Frank. Hey,
Shout to
I
Marvin.
get to call him Uncle Frank now too.
Right. So we went to an event, and they were both there, and I was like, "Have you ever met Uncle Frank?" She said, "No." I said, "Have you ever met Lorraine?" She said, "No, I seen him on the radio." So I introduced them, and now they officially have seen each other face to face and know who
Finally.
each other are. So they now know they've officially met. Shout out to Marvin Church, who will be on the show for the second
Shortly.
for the 7 o'clock hour. He should be coming in the studio any minute. Donna Nolan, always a pleasure. How are you doing? How's everything with you? I know you were down for a minute. If you can give us an update how you are doing, and happy Mother's Day to
Happy
you.
Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day again to all who didn't hear me, to all the mothers out there, and all the women who are raising somebody else's kids. Happy Mother's Day to you too. Happy Mother's Day.
To all the mothers up in heaven.
Yes. It's second app. Yes. Yes. It's not a holiday that I celebrate. I told my stepmother, and once I got this solved with my stepmother and she was good with it, I'm good. I said, "Yo, I don't think I'm ever buying another Mother's Day card because I can't buy one for my mother." And the only person I really cared who had what they thought was her. And she felt the same. Who she lost her mother within a couple of years before I did, and she felt the same way. And she has not brought a Mother's Day card. So I'm not doing that. The whole buying Mother's Day cards, I'm not doing that anymore. That's just my stance. For all of those who have checked on me this week, I am good. It gets easier with time. I'm dealing with it. I mean, because the first couple of years, I don't even think I did shows or was on the show Mother's Day. Last year, I did the tribute to my mom. I did it in the paper, and I read it over online, the poem I read to her.
Yeah.
And I think like for all of us who, Lorraine Moneypenny, how are you? She said, "Happy Mother's Day." For all of you, whose mothers are not here, I mean, the best thing you can do is to honor your mother, in her memory, is to remember those things that she taught you. Like my mother taught me civil engagement and being active in my community and a lot of stuff like that. So I believe that I honor her with the work I do with Black Westchester in this radio show. And then she passed me a baton, and that's what I keep going. So love you, Mom. Miss you. And to everybody celebrating, shout out to David Duarte that's tuned in.
Let me give a shout out to my man KP Patterson,
Okay.
one of my dudes from high school. Good to see him on the check-in.
Oh, and gas face to another person out there who, you know what, you don't even get your name mentioned. Tried to put on Facebook, look, only 30 people, only 20 people, only 17 people looked at the show. You know what, we're now broadcasting on YouTube. And everybody doesn't know it. So if you go to the live stream of YouTube, it's going to be like, 5, 10, 15, 25 views until we build that up. So, but that was a punk that was a punk smooth move of yours. And thank you for thinking about us, and thank you for posting our videos all week, because we've gotten a lot of hits. Thank you from some 2014 videos. So we thank you for the promotion. Go ahead.
Just one more thing. Can I say one more last thing on Hezzy?
Absolutely.
Has he texted and said that he's got a big story on Joe Spezio that's coming out today. He said, including pictures. I said, is it the picture with the uniform? He says, I have that, but these are more.
Text him and ask him would he like to call in for 5 minutes and talk about it.
Yeah, we were expecting him to call back. So.
Shout out to Charles Stern.
Yes, Charles Stern joining us.
Watching from Mother's Day dinner. Appreciate that.
We will not tell anyone that, Charles.
And shout out to the whole Stern family.
Yes, we're trying to develop new social media protocols, Charles. No social media at dinner, man. We're surprised you confess that you're violating. Don't worry, your secret's safe with us.
No
though.
problem. If you're listening to the show and the whole family's listening while you're eating dinner, if that's what you do, we appreciate you. No texting and eating at the same time, though. So there was a couple other things going on. So we did the Black Westchester Power Hour on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
We did a show on WVOX. We talked about a bunch of topics. So in the last week or so, and I don't think some of these things were mentioned. So we had the situation where another deputy police commissioner of the Mount Vernon Police Department had some legal troubles. It's the sister of Roberta James, a former campaign manager of Mayor Richard Thomas. And according to a Low HUD article, she pled the 718 number. She pled guilty to I believe it's credit card fraud. And according to the Low HUD article, there was a lady. She noticed that her credit score went down considerably, and she called to find out what that was all about, and found out she was in debt for she had a $25,000 bill that she didn't know nothing about, and it had been from surgery or procedures that had been done in like the Bahamas or something by this individual and another family member or associate of hers. So we had that situation. We had the Delia Farquharson. She got her letter May 1st saying that she's not on the ballot, but she's continuing to challenge it. I'm not really sure what the up to date is on that. Ernie Davis just got a letter saying that he is not on the ballot, that several of his signatures were not good, which put him under the number, but he goes to court tomorrow. So we'll be watching that situation. And then, you know what? Real talk. So it's no longer April, but if it was, my April Fool of the week would be Mayor Thomas, who gets the gas face for his article about banking while black.
Oh my God!
I talked about that because Bob Marone asked me about it, and I said, you know what? While I don't know the whole story, and I don't pretend to know the whole story, I don't know what happened. I mean, there's 2, 3, 4 sides of every story. But what I will say, well, I hope and pray that this is not a false claim, because it just like the Jussie Smollett false claim that he was beat up because he was attacked because he was gay, which turned out not to be true. All those civil rights groups and gay rights groups and all these publications published it supporting him because he was attacked because he was gay. You understand what I'm saying? And it's like, it's hard enough for our people in that community to get their stories believed when it does happen. You know what I'm saying? That's had a black eye. The same way, I hope and pray that this is not a false made-up story for propaganda and politics because you're running in the primary. Because, there are people that get arrested for banking while black. There are people that get shot for doing things and get arrested for doing things or for being black or brown. You know what I'm saying? And most of those cases, a lot of them don't get believed. They don't have the support behind them. And for a mayor of a city like Mount Vernon to make, and this made national news because it was in Rolling Out from Atlanta. It was
really?
It was in Rolling Out. It's a black newspaper in Atlanta I used to write for. It was one of those sites, the Root or the Griot or something.com.
Griot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is a national black site. And Low HUD is owned by USA Today. So when they have stories, like when Richard Thomas won and made history, it ran in all of the USA Today affiliated papers all across the country. So I'm assuming it did the same again. And for those who are really having to fight that battle, for someone who has fought for people that have come to us because they didn't have a leg to stand on, they have nowhere else to go because they were trying to get their story out. This undermines all of the civil rights claims. This undermines all of the people that are being arrested and stopped and targeted because they are black. You know what I'm saying? For a mayor to do that. Again, I hope and pray that this is not a false claim, that this is not propaganda and politics because you're running in a primary. I will be gladly, pleasantly proven wrong. If it's not, I'll be very happy. But right now, that's what it looks like on the face. And I'm just speaking real talk. We give you real talk for the community. I'm giving you real talk. This is real talk. If that was true, if that wasn't true, he's my April Fool, and he gets the gas face. Point blank. That's all I have to say about that. We'll move on. Shout to Don Powell, DP Printing and Graphics. They do our T-shirts. The T-shirts you seen that we had with the magazine with the front cover on it. Those were all done by DP, and he blessed us with those Generational Wealth Starts Here hoodies that he's doing now. Happy Mother's Day to Tammy Cates. I seen she's tuned in. Shout out to Daniel Terry. Shout out to Ken Bright. KP Patterson says shout out to shout out to you all and respect what y'all do, but big up to my man Dr. Bob. There you go. Oh, and the Tumbo Muhammad said, promote AJ, tell them all, hit the thumbs up and share buttons. Blazers over Nuggets. Real talk. I feel you.
He's gonna call you in 15 minutes.
All right, real talk. I feel you. What I would really like to see, the Denver Nuggets, Joker and the Denver Nuggets play a Milwaukee and the Greek Freak, because both of those teams have not been in there in a while. It would be a great, exciting thing for basketball. I don't know that Denver can get past the current team and then get past Golden State. The other scenario, though, if I can't have that, I guess I'm going to have to settle for Steph Curry versus Seth Curry. You know what I'm saying? The Curry brothers going against each other in the final. But my choice would be Milwaukee and the Greek Freak against Denver and the Joker. Like, that, to me, would be like the ultimate taking basketball, passing the baton on to the next generation, and two future superstars going at it. That's all I'm saying. That's what I would like to see.
I pick Curry too because I like his family. That's all I know about
Well, I'm
basketball.
saying, but there's two Currys playing. There's Curry, the champion.
Then forget it.
Curry that just won on the Golden State, the champions. And then his brother plays on the East Coast
that's
team.
right.
Seth. So there's Seth and Steph.
Oh.
So yeah, and they both had a game 7, and the game 7 today is game 7 today is with Denver. So I would like to see them.
Wow.
I would like to see them to do their thing, but it is what it is. Daniel Terry said, while the story was skewed in certain publications, I can vouch that it was in fact true. From the moment he walked in, to the entire staff was side-eye. Kevin Bunn said Denver just lost to the Blazers. Is the game over? The game's not over. Is it over? Somebody tell me what the score was. Is the game over after I said all that? Is the game over? Shout out to Anthony Old School Mitchell. Can't wait to see you at the cigar function that you having soon at Central. What's the one on?
Central Avenue?
Say it. Central Cigar Lounge on Central Avenue. I've been there with you. I've been there with Damon. It's like a private club. It's dope up in there. I talked to the owner on social media, so plug to him. And while we're plugging things, plug to the Yonkers Whiskey House.
Hey.
Had a great time when was there for Tasha's event.
Article in the paper out today about him too.
Right. It's an article in what? Which one?
And Yonkers Tribune about Rob.
Oh, okay.
My nephew.
Right. And the current Black Westchester that was out that ran last month. The event was in there, and he's in some of those pictures too. So shout out to Carmen Gomez Goldberg, she was there. Shout out to her, she's tuned in. So and Don Powell said thanks, DP. No doubt, DP.
Happy Mother's Day, Carmen.
Yo, and lastly, and all I would to say to Daniel Terry, I didn't say it wasn't true. I'm just saying I really hope and pray that it wasn't just built up propaganda and politics as he runs in the primary. I'll be glad to find out that it wasn't true, but I'm just saying, Daniel Terry, I've been involved with Richard Thomas before you was, and I'm not saying that I'm saying he's not above that. That's all I'm saying. You came in after I left, so I saw Richard Thomas. I believe that the campaign is I believe that the administration is not above that. So that, again, that's just my opinion. Opinions of life.
Moreover, it's important to note that Chase Bank contested Mayor Thomas's versions of events.
Absolutely.
Yes, they did.
And amongst other things, I did read the report that appeared in LoHUD, and amongst other things that were cited for notifying the police was that the mayor's security detail, which was undercover, had no identifiable, way of indicating they were police officers, but apparently some bank employees saw guns bulging from beneath their suits.
So, and lastly on that, so I talked to law enforcement officers, local law enforcement officers from various levels, the county police, state police, local police in several municipalities, and when they read the story, they said that Chase followed proper protocols from what they said, from when they saw him come in with the gun. So, again, I only know about the story I read, the people I've talked to. I have not While I did contact the Thomas administration for a comment, I'm not exactly on their Christmas card list these days, and I have not gotten one. So
I should add, the president of the city's industrial development agency is now Marilyn Crawford.
okay, somebody asked that, right?
Yes.
Yes. Mhm.
That's okay. So something is going to come out about that. I'm pretty sure.
Shout out to Stan Ridley. What's going on, my brother? And shout out to Javon Boxhill. I'm still gonna say I don't care. I feel that if Maureen ran him, that he would be the controller right now. We might not have some of the problems we're dealing with. I'm gonna keep saying that. I think Maureen should have put her support behind him, passed the torch, and I believe he would be the controller right now. But shout out to my man, new father. You know how that's work. That's life changing. It gives life meaning. When you have that first child, it just changes the way you see the outlook on just about everything. It changes things.
I want to read a quote from about the story from Low HUD that summarizes the bank's version of events. A company spokesman insisted that neither the mayor nor his entourage were profiled. Police were called at the direction of corporate security because an employee saw the plainclothes detective had a gun but did not know he was a police officer. Quote, our staff acted appropriately, said the bank spokesman Joseph Evangelisti, who added that White Plains police never went upstairs to the bank office and left after the detective identified himself. According to a White Plains police report, officers were called to the scene hours after the mayor's arrival, and once the bank staff already knew that one of the employees accompanying him had a gun.
Last week gonna say on that situation, and I'm sorry, this is probably gonna come out real arrogant and probably be messed up. The attitude. He had the nerve. Daniel Terry said, why do I always have to say what I did before? Because it's true.
But it's relevant.
And it's relevant. And I was there for the whole campaign and everything. You got there after we got him in. So, yes, it's relevant, and it gives me a perspective to speak on being there from experience. And more importantly, you know what? When you get a radio show and you have a media outlet, you do what you want to say and you say what you want, but you can't tell me what to say. I'm going to have an opinion, and I'm going to speak my opinion and my perspective on my show. And if you don't like it, you don't have to listen. And I mean that with all due respect. So I'm just saying, I wasn't trying to say, like, you had my sloppy seconds or something or whatever you must have read into it. But as a matter of record, I was involved before you was. Does Hezzy have a 347 number?
Yes.
Okay. We're moving right on. We have a caller. Let me see if I can get this on. People before politics. Caller, please state your name and your purpose for calling.
Oh, my name is Hezzy Aris. I'm with the newspaper in Yonkers.
Yes, the Yonkers Tribune. How are you doing, sir?
How are you, AJ? All right, you sound great.
Thank you. So the word going around is you have some big breaking news story that's gonna like rock the world. Like
I love you,
and we want to hear about it.
I love you, Lorraine. Well, it turns out I just posted it because I was missing one name. I needed to know who was who. So it turns out there are a couple of things happening in Mount Vernon. The first one is with respect to Joe Spezio. Remember, he was the former police commissioner, and after he stole the Tahoe and didn't return it, even though he was let go by Commissioner Sean Harris, he eventually returned the vehicle, and then he got picked up for driving without a New York State license, and he was stripped of his responsibilities. And it turns out now we have a picture of him on the website, at the Yonkers Tribune website. It turns out he's parked his motorcycle on the sidewalk, and he's wearing a police jacket, and we know it's a police jacket because it's got the Mount Vernon police patch emblazoned on the left-hand side of his upper arm. And it's just totally illegal, and I don't know why he didn't even get ticketed. Why is he permitted to park on the sidewalk?
That is a good question.
Yeah, and on top of that, if you remember, when Sean Harris was the police commissioner, because he eventually did get fired by the mayor, it turns out that it was Sean that said that there's a New York State penal law, subsection 190.26, which states that it's a violation to impersonate someone, a police officer. It's a criminal impersonation, and it's subject to first degree. And he'd go to jail for that. And there should be a filing of a paper against him for that with the district attorney, Anthony Scarpino. This is heavy-duty stuff.
I have no.
What's going on in Mount Vernon?
I don't know, and I'm gonna be honest. I have not a lot of faith in the the district attorney, Anthony Scarpino. I have not seen him do anything as far as police corruption is concerned in the county of Westchester. And just so people know, here is the picture that you are referring to. I'm putting on the screen right now, with Spezio standing there with a police emblem on. Police.
Yeah, it looks like there's a police officer he's talking to, but I don't know. I can't really see what he's wearing on his shirt. It's a T-shirt.
This is on South 4th Avenue, standing directly in front of the Richard Thomas for Mayor headquarters.
Right.
And this was
That's
yesterday afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yeah, so
Well, it seems like this is just another example of lawlessness that the mayor has set with respect to some of his key personnel. It should be disturbing to everyone that we have someone who has been forced to resign from the commissioner's position for several months now, and he continues to make unauthorized illegal use of police accessories, not only a uniform, but also apparently he hasn't even returned the vehicle. The last I heard, maybe
I thought he did return the vehicle.
No, the vehicle.
No,
for the record,
I didn't know that.
Someone else just called. If you call back in the next, call back in a minute, and I'll put you on for a minute.
Okay.
No. So just for the record, so the New Rochelle Police Department seized the vehicle and turned the custody of it back over to the Mount Vernon Police Department. So I think what is being said has to be looked at.
And former Commissioner Sean
Harris.
Harris
then issued a letter, a public letter, stating that the former police commissioner had absconded with the vehicle and he was in violation of the law.
Well, I mean, the bigger thing, the point I want to make, though, the New Rochelle Police Department seized the vehicle. They turned over custody to the Mount Vernon Police Department. So had he had the vehicle again, he had to be given the vehicle after the situation. I think we're missing that point, because Mount Vernon had custody of the vehicle. They had to get it from the Rochelle Police Department. So he had to get the keys back from them.
Okay. Real quickly, because you say you have some other caller,
Yeah.
Another part of our story that's online is that if you remember, Mount Vernon Deputy Police Commissioner Freda Hickson, she pleaded guilty to credit card fraud to the tune of over $20,000, so she could get some sort of surgery. I don't know what they call that now. It just skips my mind, but it's a surgery to make her look more beautiful or whatever. But anyway,
one of the procedures was liposuction. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the problems with that is that she had pleaded guilty. She was pleaded guilty on the 24th of April. It's now the 12th of May. She's still being employed at the taxpayer's expense. There's absolutely no reason why we would need to employ a felon in the city of Mount Vernon. That's got to stop. And
we're in full agreement.
The last thing is the Mount Vernon IDA agency director of communications, Ernie Garcia, who was recently hired by the mayor.
Yes.
He's out there sticking those little palm cards about this event that they're having on Tuesday, where they're handing out some sort of some gifts out in front of City Hall Tuesday morning.
Well, I will say...
So that's at the taxpayer's expense.
I will say even under Ernie Davis, Mount Vernon employees, more
Oh,
importantly,
this is Ernie. I'm sorry, Ernie Garcia.
No. I'm saying, to be fair to Mayor Thomas, while I agree that is on this practice took place under Mayor Ernie Davis as well.
Okay.
So I'm not
Ernie
saying
Davis is no longer.
No, and
Ernie
I'm not
Davis
saying
is
that
no longer running.
I'm not saying it excuses it. I'm just saying this attitude of whatever that is actually predates Mayor Thomas. Mayor Thomas is continuing the cycle of what used to happen, but he didn't start this. This behavior did not start with him, is what I'm saying. Someone said Freda is suspended, and yes, she is suspended.
It even began
with pay.
before Ernie Davis in other places too, but that doesn't make it right.
No.
So,
Not excusing it. I was just, we try to be fair, and even in them situations, to be fair.
I don't think he heard you when you said she was suspended.
Yeah, and one of the listeners. So I have somebody call it. Hold on, Hezzy, you stay on the line. I have somebody. This is the fourth time they've called. People before politics. Please state your name and your purpose for calling. And turn down your radio or whatever is echoing in the background, please.
Hey, AJ, it's Don. I got you.
Okay, what's going on, sir?
Okay, there were two topics that I just listened to, and the first one was the incident at the Chase Bank in White Plains.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, even though I'm no longer in Mount Vernon, I'm still connected to a lot of people and a lot of law enforcement agencies. What was stipulated earlier that the bank followed protocols when they observed what they believed to have been a firearm on the mayor's security guard, for argument's sake. Mm-hmm. Okay. It wasn't an issue of banking while being black. That was just a smokescreen to cover Richie Thomas's true intentions of gaining access to the city's financial accounts. Secondly,
well, and he did have and he does have permission to see the accounts from the court.
Correct.
Yes. I just want to throw that in there. Yeah.
There was an ulterior motive for that visit, but that's another day. Secondly, the issue with Joe Spizio, if anybody ever believed that he was fired, then they're crazy. He has still been running the Mount Vernon Police Department. Now, as a stipulated, he had on a police jacket, which had the Mount Vernon Police patch on the left arm, and it said traffic unit, I believe, on the left part of the upper part of the jacket. That's illegal under New York State. He is not a sworn police officer. And even though Richie received a permit for his motorcade, who paid the lieutenant and the other officer for the time they did this motorcade?
Well, that was the concerns. I had got several calls yesterday. We did verify that a permit was taken out because, I want to clarify that because there was people who had told me and said he did it without a permit. So a permit was taken out. I got that confirmed from the clerk. But there was no permission for a police escort, so to speak. And I don't know if you need permission for your government for using city cars, but somewhat I understand there was no permission given for the city vehicles to be involved and for the police escort. So, they said the picture, the guy in the picture with Spizio is Marchielli. You have to say his last name because I always mispronounce it.
It was Mike Marchielli.
Okay, who for anybody who ever paid attention to Black Westchester, I have named him the $1 Million Man because he has caused Mount Vernon over $1 million in excessive force lawsuits. So I can never pronounce his name, but he's the $1 Million Man. So they say the person in the picture with Spizio is the $1 Million Man, and his license is suspended. Why aren't they locking him up? Oh, why are they not locking Spizio up? Because his
license is suspended and he drove the motorcycle?
His license was suspended at the time that he got pulled over. That's why the vehicle got seized in New Rochelle.
Okay, AJ, let me explain something to you because I did V&T 98% of my career. If you fail to appear in court for a previous ticket or fail to pay a fine for a previous ticket, your license will be suspended. Once you answer that summons, i.e. appear in court, take care of it, or pay the fine for the previous ticket, that suspension is lifted.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Do we know that's what happened here?
I don't know what the criteria. Those are the reasons, and failure to pay child support, or operating a motor vehicle, without insurance.
Actually, all
that
the
can be
things that you
rectified.
named and all the things you named are the reason that Dan Jones, the building commissioner's license was suspended for all of the above.
Well, again, a suspension can be lifted in 24 hours.
No, he
All
has
you have to do
his
is give
license was
it to the
suspended
judge.
in 3 or 4 different municipalities and counties. Dan Jones. So
No, I'm talking.
And I know you're talking about
Joe
Spezio.
Spezio.
So we don't know. You have to find out. We have to find out, was his suspension lifted? I mean, that's the point. I mean, it makes no sense to arguing if we don't. I mean, debating
He
the whole
probably
thing. We don't
took
know.
care of it
I mean,
quickly.
he probably if he knew what to do. I mean, he knows how to get around. The dude has a law degree. He hasn't passed the bar, but he knows how to get around the law. He understands how to manipulate the law very well.
Well, you can only be so. Again, I'll match my wits as far as the law with him any day. Okay, because number one, the average person, even with their law degree, you have to remember what year did he receive his law degree? Years have elapsed since he received his law degree. Okay, and the laws have changed since then.
I agree.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right. I agree.
So-
We're gonna move on to our guest because we have a guest in the studio coming in.
Say goodbye to
Oh,
Hezzy.
cool.
But is Hezzy still on the line?
You told him to hold on.
No, he might have hung up because I collected. If I accidentally hung up on him, I apologize when I switch calls. But thank you for calling down. We're trying to keep the show moving, and we don't want the whole show to be about Spezio.
Keep it going, brother.
Yeah,
Keep it going.
we're not giving Spezio a lot of. He's just not monopolizing the show.
All right, brother. Be good.
All
Be
right,
good.
no doubt.
Yes, Donnie.
All right. Like,
Oops. That was Don Starchild Moore, former Mount Vernon police officer, retired. Very, very outspoken critic of the mayor and the administration, and often has come to the show and talked to the paper about police issues, like procedures and process as far as the police is concerned. And I do want to. I don't know if Hezzy is still listening. I might have hung up on him by mistake. I think Hezzy mentioned he made a statement. Ernie's not on the ballot. Ernie is going to court tomorrow. He got a letter from the Board of Election, but he still has to go to court. He's going to court tomorrow. So he's not officially off yet. He's fighting it, so he could win. He has a number. I just want to say that out. Just period. I don't know much about the situation. I know the numbers that they said he turned in and the numbers that they said were good. If that's true, that's very disheartening. But I will speak more on that after the court case and I speak to everybody involved and I know what's going on more. Shout out to Jesse Van Loo. Always want to get a brother shout out. Another brother who's not afraid to say it, who came out, who got tired of the conditions in the city, and he's put together an organization called Save Mount Vernon, along with Atif Khalil, and they've had several rallies, and they've been championing the justice for the unsolved homicides, for the families of unsolved homicides in the city of Mount Vernon, and as well as some other things. But that's been the main thing that they've been championing and keeping attention and keeping the attention on those investigations that have gone cold. So shout out to him and what he does. Shout out to Barry McGooey, another friend of the show. Got to get you back on the show sometime after the primary, Barry. It's been a minute since you've been up here, so got to get you to come back up here and talk about what's going on in Yonkers. So before we get on the next guest, speaking about Yonkers, is there anything you would like to tell us about the Yonkers political scene? Anything going on in Yonkers? We talked about a lot about Mount Vernon. Anything Yonkers news you got for us?
Nothing. Everybody stayed on the ballot. Not one person got kicked off.
Okay.
That's some interesting stuff.
Okay.
So it's going to be a very interesting June 25th.
I heard from somebody, a conversation I had yesterday with some county people. They said that 17th district county legislative seat is going to be a heated race.
That's the one with London, Lucy Casanova Moreno, and Jose Alvarado.
Well, that's from what I heard from county people that I talked to yesterday. They said that's when you're going to watch, AJ. That's going to be very heated.
Yeah.
And could get ugly. That was what I was told from county people yesterday. So I will be watching that race.
Yeah.
I will be watching that race.
I've been watching it.
Well, I'm
It's
just saying,
fascinating
Black
stuff.
Westchester is going to pay a little bit more attention to that race. And again, in closing on this portion of the show, yo, we've been there before. Stop making up stuff. If you can't, stop coming at us with crazy stuff.
For
If you have
real.
nothing to prove, I mean, listen.
Sit down.
Listen, it costs you no money to pay us no mind. It costs you nothing to pay us no mind. You don't like it, don't tune in. But thank you for talking about us and keeping us alive and keeping our conversation going and sharing our stuff.
And cheers to you, madam.
Yes. And we have Dagmar. Say the last name.
Jimenez.
There you go.
My
on,
girl.
On the tune in. In the green room we have coming into the studio. Bob, was there anything else you wanted to touch on before we move on?
I just wanted to say, give a shout out to Brother Goodsight who checked in.
Yes, I saw his name. And Loretta Thomas and Lynn Woodley. Also, those names I just saw. Anybody else? And Phil.
Oh, Phil is on the check-in.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see Phil there.
Phil Terrence Fountain. Yeah.
Okay.
Shout to Sean Patterson Howard.
Definitely shout to Sean Patterson.
Let me read
Howard.
a comment first. You know what? I'm going to read because I have to agree. For this comment, I do agree. The lawlessness that has been tolerated and allowed is terrifying. That would not be tolerated in any other jurisdiction. I do agree.
That's in Yonkers. Well, you see Yonkers, he got booted out really quick. Imagine if he was something like that was going on with the police department in Yonkers. Forget about it. He would have been sitting in jail.
I mean, it raises all kind of questions about the duplicity of elected officials outside of the city of Mount Vernon in the kind of systemic corruption and heist that many of us believe has been occurring under the Thomas administration from day one.
Well, Bob, I asked you, can we collaborate on a book called TNT? How Thomas and Trump blew up the hood.
That's cool.
Because they both have been very detrimental to anything. and yo,
you know what? You shouldn't have said that out loud. Somebody's gonna steal that.
You know what? Then go have fun with it. Then, we'll come up with something else and it'll be better.
That was
But
good.
so I want to Bob, you.
No, I wasn't going to say it.
I want to bring in our guest sitting in the green room, friend of the show, Mr. Marvin Church is in the building. Can I get to the?
Marvin, you such a real dude, man. We give you props. Yes.
I have too many mics that control too many monitors, so I had to get to the right one. There we go. Actually, can you sit in that chair on the end? Because I have a shot that's shot that way, and it's bigger, and it doesn't have all four chairs in it, and then y'all are bigger in the scene.
Hey, how are you?
So,
Good.
entering the building, sitting in the seat is Mr. Marvin Church. Let me turn on your mic. Your mic is on now. You are on. You are on. Again, pull a mic close to you. You have access to the computer if you need to do anything social media wise.
No.
I just like to invite all the
Thank
guests
you.
to do that. If you want to share from my page to your page, the live footage from Facebook, you can share it, all that good stuff. So, Mr. Marvin, we talk about a lot of different things. I know you have a column coming up in the next issue of Black Westchester that comes out this week. I think it's revolving around Con Ed and what's the word?
Moratorium.
Yep, that word. In Southern Westchester. Would you like to tell us more about that? And I don't know if that's the reason you're up here, or you had other things you wanted to talk about.
And I think the focus is really on the energy piece, which is a very critical piece
Okay.
in Southern Westchester. What's happened is that Con Edison in March of 2019 said that there's no more gas consumption for new construction and existing customers that were going to switch from oil to gas, and we call that in the industry OTG. And so what has happened is that Con Edison, since they came out with that edict, as of March 15th, before then, anybody who was doing new developments had to file an application with Con Edison to make sure within the next 2 years from the time of March 15th of 2019 for 2021, could be able to get gas supply in a new building.
Yeah.
Which is to us as the minority community.
Can you pull the mic closer to you? People just said they can't hear you
Okay.
as well. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Okay, great. So what we're saying here is that since that has happened, it's not just new construction that we're looking at, it's also existing buildings. And it can be a major impact within our communities. Now, this moratorium starts from Ossining, New York, south to Yonkers, and east over towards Pound Ridge, down to the Sound Shore, which is New Rochelle. So that whole area, which covers the major cities, White Plains, Yonkers, White Plains, Yonkers, Mount Vernon, and New Rochelle.
Greenberg? No Greenberg?
Greenberg is within that area, but I said all the way down south. So what happens that since we have this gas moratorium, it has an impact, as I said, and with this impact, a lot of the environmentalists working with the governor, tied in with the Public Service Commission as well as the Public Utilities Commission, stated, well, since we got this gas issue, and Con Ed asked for gas increases to the Public Service Commission for more gas, but unfortunately, the closest pipeline for southern Westchester is the Tennessee Pipeline, and that Tennessee Pipeline currently has running out of gas. So what's going on with that is that since it's running out of gas, Con Ed made the edict, we're going to do a moratorium, but it's going to be affecting a lot of people in our community. So this is what's going on, basically.
So I know you explained that, and you explained it, you broke it down. For the day-to-day person that doesn't pay attention to the news, what does that basically mean? How does that affect you? Is it going to affect your price? How's that going to affect the average Con Ed user?
Well, what it means is that since there's no new supply of gas, Con Ed and what we call in the utilities industry is going to be more electrification. That means more electricity is going to be used in new buildings, as well as people who aren't oil who want to switch over to gas will be using more electricity. And there's different technologies that will be used in order for the individual homeowner or business would want to move forward.
So, to put things in a context, I know a lot of homeowners who have recently sought to convert from oil, which is very more costly in comparison to gas.
Correct.
Right. So one practical implication for homeowners is that those who are looking to reduce their heating bill by converting to something that was less expensive are now going to be stuck with high heating prices.
Yes, what's going to happen, the fossil fuel industry, and as of even last week, the state Senate had sent out an edict, law that they want all the New York State's residents to go off of fossil fuels and go on to the non-pipe solutions. And when I say non-pipe solution, the definition of a non-pipe solution is something where you're using air source heat pumps, geothermal or ground source heat pumps, VHF, which is refrigeration substitutes within the VHS, within the energy sector. So there's a lot of other alternatives that the environmentalists want us to go towards, and it's critical for us to look at those areas of non-fossil fuels. The reason why? I'll give you an example. In Sweden, or the Scandinavian countries in the late 1970s, a bulk of their energy source was coming from Russia. All the gas that the Scandinavian countries had were coming to Russia. Scandinavian countries made a decision, if we continue taking our gas from Russia, we will be in trouble, because the political risk of Russia saying, I'm cutting off your gas, is a problem. So what the Scandinavian countries did, they've decided to go on non-pipe solutions, which were geothermal systems as well as air source heat pumps. And 90% of their population went on that source of energy, which saved a lot of energy, but at the same time, the political risk of them going on to gas was reduce that, and they had no fear of Russian curtailment or anything like that. So that's 90% of the Scandinavian countries are on non-pipe solutions. Asia, right now, is about 80% are on non-pipe solutions. let's look at America, the United States. 8% of our population is on non-pipe solutions, and within New York State, we're at 1%.
Let me ask. I don't know how this relates, but I know in the last couple of years there have been a lot of talks on solar, and there were companies like Solar City trying to come into Mount Vernon and other places and convert houses to solar. And I understood that Con Ed and them were not really pleased by that. So can you speak?
I'll be more than happy to speak on that. That's another solution, would be non-pipe solution. But anytime you get a solar on your roof, that means your roof has to have a 20-year useful life. That means typically anybody that's going to put solar on their roof has to be fixed for at least, it has to be usable for at least 20 years.
Okay.
And the cost of fixing a roof is very expensive. So when they put the solar on, that solar can be used and it's a good vehicle. But what happens, what we do in the industry, we call shading studies. That means if you're near a building or you're near trees, shading will stop the ray of the sun coming in to the solar system, and then you don't get as much solar rays as you would need. And typically when you get a shading study, especially in the Northeast where we live, you're saving money, but you're not saving that much electricity, because any overload of that electricity coming from solar, what happens? It goes back to the excess. It goes back to Con Ed, and you don't get any money for it. So you're really hurting yourself.
No, I wasn't.
Oh, that's what you did, one of those. Put your hand.
Yeah. So solar is one aspect of that, but what's happened here in Westchester, 72% of the homes throughout Westchester County are built what we call balloon frame. What does balloon frame mean? It means that when they build homes, between the frame and the window, you have what we call tar paper. There is no insulation typically of homes in southern Westchester. And so when you have a cold winter day, when you feel that coldness coming through your doors and your windows, you have a problem, and that's called lack of insulation. So the proponent, what I've been recently doing is that since we're looking at this non-pipe solution of these geothermal and air source heat pumps, which I'll tell you what that is in a few minutes, the key thing that I've been fighting up in Albany with the Public Service Commission as well as the Public Utility Commission is that they want to come into our communities, which I don't have a problem with that. They want to put the air source or the ground source heat pumps in, but they don't want to provide the funds to insulate the homes, which I have a problem with.
Right.
Because if you just put in the air source or the ground source heat pumps, and you're still getting the cold air coming through your windows and your frame of your roof, you have a problem. So what's the point of them just putting those units in, of just putting those units in of the air and ground source heat pumps in, and you don't have insulation? Mm-hmm. So what's happened is that I've done some of this. I've been working in the energy industry for about 20 years. So one thing that I see that's very critical that we need to do is that before we roll out the non-pipe solutions, is that we do an analysis in each individual's home and business to make sure there's enough insulation. And then what we use to determine that is called infrared cameras.
To determine the heat signature.
Heat signature, and looking to see what's in the walls, in the roof structure of a home or a building. And a lot of folks don't allow people to do that. They just put stuff in it. I was just talking with somebody even the other day. They said they were putting a new boiler in their home, but during the wintertime, you're still feeling cold air coming through. And the first thing I asked her, I said, did you use of an infrared camera? Your plumbers or anybody use infrared camera so you can see the insulation in your walls? Mm-hmm. And they said no. And I said, that's a critical component, because a lot of people in the industry just want to put the boilers in, but they don't want to do the right things to make the house insulated.
Wow.
Which is where you probably generate the bulk of your income as a energy company.
Yeah.
You can do that, but it just insulates. It minimizes the cold air coming through your home or your building.
Right. I want to interrupt real quick.
Yes, sir.
Shout out to Michael Bullock, Mark Stuckey, and Jason Laidley. And Jason, we would like and we are inviting Senator Jamal Bailey on the show. We'd like to get in touch with us so we can make that happen. I just wanted to say that while I had Jason there.
It's been a long time since the Senators graced our
well, he hasn't been on since he won.
Oh, okay.
He has not been on the show since he took office. So he was here for the debate that they had for the that was it. That was the last time he was here. So I just want to say we'd like to get the Senator. We had Senator Biaggi come. We had State Senator. We had Andrea Stewart Cousins come. But none of them are in the district that I live in. So I'd like to see my state senator come and talk about. And I also want to put out there Biaggi and David
Tubalo.
David Tubiolo.
There you go. That's how you pronounce it. They did an excellent job and forum for the Fleetwood area of Mount Vernon. I would like to see my county legislator, Lyndon Williams, and my state senator, Jamal Bailey, do something like that at the Dole Center to speak to the issues facing the South Side, and that both are in the district that you serve. So I just want to put that out there. No shout. We would like to get you on the show. And I saw that your name was on there. Shout out to my man Jason, but we're trying to get Jamal on. And can we make that happen for us, please? Thank you. There you go. Sorry. And you will now be returned to your regularly scheduled program already in progress.
Back to this boring subject. So basically what we're talking about is that it's critical, since we have mandates by the state to meet certain guidelines. We're supposed to meet reduce greenhouse gas emissions 40% by 2030. That's a mandate within the state guidelines. And they want to have everything fully by the state guidelines. And by 2050, they want at least 80% of homeowners and businesses be on non-fossil fuels and non-fuel gas. In order for us to reach that, we have a lot of work to do. So what I've been doing is I've been working a lot with NYSERDA, which is New York State Energy Research and Development Authority.
Thank you for that, because I was going to ask you what that stood
for. Also, I've been working with Con Ed and meeting with them quite a bit. I've been working with Con Ed in different programs in Con Ed for the last 10 years. So I'm kind of familiar with a lot of the players there and who represents Westchester, who represents people in the city. I've been working with a lot of the low-income programs that Con Ed has rolled out. I've worked with the multifamily programs that Con Ed has worked through. I've worked with a lot of new construction projects and programs through NYSERDA, New York State Research and Development Authority. So those are critical components right now that's funding this whole situation of the moratorium. They're coming up with incentives monies right now to provide for the basic areas. Now, during the new construction situation right now, the three cities that they name all the time in our hearings up in Albany, White Plains, and all over, we only hear about three major cities that are doing construction, and they're only really concerned about three major cities.
Which are?
New Rochelle, White Plains, and Yonkers.
I want to say one more thing. For the average person listening, and I'm speaking seriously as far as the Con Ed thing, why we talking about people that need to talk to the public. Most people in Mount Vernon, especially on the south side, just want to know, what the hell are you doing to our streets? Y'all are digging up the streets. We never know when you're digging it up. We don't know when you start, when you're going to finish. What are you doing? There's nothing being communicated to the people, and the people are fed up. They don't know. You just see trucks and things are dug up, and you just can't drive down that street no more.
I agree, but that's typically when they were doing a lot of what we call oil to gas conversions. They were going into the streets, putting new gas lines in, and that's what's has happened. Con Ed, in order to do a gas line, they invest 85 years amortization to put gas lines in.
I just would like, whether it's led by our elected officials or led by organizations like Black Westchester, I would like to create more of a dialogue where the people from Con Ed are coming into the community and having town hall forums like at the Dole Center, and even where they had the other thing in Fleetwood, just to let people, because it's mostly on the south side, let them know what you're doing, because the people have no idea what's going on.
I understand, but what happens there, when Con Ed comes in, they notify the municipality. The municipality is informed.
They notify City Hall.
They inform the municipality. I'm not going to specify.
So whoever's being notified, y'all get the gas face for not informing the public. The public wants to know what the hell is going on. I did a big feature in 2014 called The Streets of Mount Vernon. I just drove by and took pictures of all the streets that had all of these blocked off areas and everything, and it was ridiculous.
But one thing that we didn't realize, I'm not going to veer off the subject of non-pipe, but what's happened with a lot of streets being torn up, and we didn't know this, they were putting gas lines in, not from Con Ed.
Right, that's what people are concerned about.
Yes,
what is
but
going on?
But they weren't from Con Ed. They was from a major gas company that was doing gas coming from Canada that they put
that
those lines
pipeline
in.
that
That's
everybody was
correct.
fighting about
that
before.
everybody's fighting about. So I don't know how that got through, but it got through somehow.
But
And
people
so
saw Con Ed trucks.
I understand, but they have to monitor it.
Yeah, well,
But you have a lot of private contractors also involved. So getting back to the non-pipe solution, the critical issue we have now is that most of the wealthy folks that have money and disposable income, they will be able to utilize the non-pipe solutions of geothermal, which you get a drill company to come and drill, and you can drill down into the earth to get the heat, and they put pipe there, and they use different systems to draw that heat from the earth. It goes into your home or your business, which is a great system. It's more expensive than typically the air source heat pumps. Air source heat pumps are very cheap. They're a good system. It's very similar to what you can consider an air conditioner, but you have different elements within that air source heat pump that is needed in order to generate the heat within the home or the business.
is there like a website that residents who are hearing about this that are not going to remember everything after the show, where they can go and be educated more on the different systems and the process, or anything that people can read up on their own?
Yes, what's happened is that as soon as we had this moratorium, NYSERDA had funded a group which they were doing some studies and work up in northern Westchester, up in Lewisboro, and Mount Kisco and Bedford, and it's called, and I'm on that committee. I was very fortunate to get on that committee. It's called Westchester Heat Smart. If you look under Westchester Heat Smart, they rolled out a contract for northern Westchester, because even we found out that some of our homes are even built, some of them are still using coal in the North Country, up in northern Westchester, which is an amazing thing, coal, and how it affects greenhouse gases is very simple. So what's happening, they're thinking about extending the Westchester Heat Smart program to southern Westchester. And Westchester Heat Smart is supposed to be going out to the community to let people know what's going on. They've talked to a lot of folks in New Rochelle. They've talked to a lot of people over in Yonkers. They've talked to a lot of people in White Plains. But again, I've been really pushing the issue about talking within Mount Vernon. Now, I had brought a representative to NYSERDA with a small group of people to discuss some of the issues that NYSERDA was trying to help within certain communities. Now, people don't realize this is going to be a major impact on the real estate industry. If you're selling your home and you're on oil, and people are now going into these ground source and air source heat pumps, that's going to be a problem for you to sell your home eventually within the next number of years, if this technology takes off. Because people are not going to, oil is going to be very expensive. And oil is expensive now when we buy oil during the winter. So the more value that we have of buying oil, it's going to have a big increase, especially in our communities, because we're just barely making it, paying bills as it is. And the ground source heat pumps are going to be very invaluable. So what I've been doing recently, I've been meeting with a lot of the committees. Like I said, I've been working on this for 20 years, but I've been working with a lot of the communities around Westchester County. I'm on the Westchester Sustainable Committee, and I spoke out about the low-income and middle-income families. But some people in the county weren't very happy when I brought that up.
Of course not.
But I live in a community that looks like us, and others who are low and middle income families that are just barely making it. And I think it's very important to bring up those different subjects. And I have done that because it's critical. And sometimes I will say I don't care if they like me or not, but when you have to live in your community and know other people are suffering, you speak out on that. So that's what I've been doing recently, and I'm going to be also working with some organizations in Yonkers to let them be aware of it. I'll talk to you, Lorraine, about this after too.
Okay.
But I really want to target what we can do to enhance the low and middle income families and residents, and making sure that the incentive money from NYSERDA or Con Ed is going to be there. Because right now, the money is not there. Okay, it's not there. Now, when they want to target the low and middle income families, they typically look at 3 programs: weatherization, called Weatherization Assistance Program, WAP, we call it. Empower is another program. And I can't, the other program I'll think of it very quickly, but these programs only have a certain maximum, and you have to have a certain income guideline, low income guideline. So what happens to the middle income family? You don't have those programs. That means they want to come out of, you have to come out of your pocket to pay for a lot of these costs, even though there's certain incentives from the state and Con Edison that can assist. So I've been, again, speaking out on that. I want to close that gap on the financing that has to come up for folks, because a lot of us just can't afford it. But what happens if somebody has a blemish on their credit report, and they have to analyze your energy based on your credit report? And some of them wouldn't be able to get that. So I've been speaking up on that. There's different techniques in the industry and financing industry that we're using right now to try to help folks, and that's what I've been doing for the last recently. But it's critical right now.
So what? So we coming upon an election and a primary. What should we be talking to our elected officials? And
well, I'm not going to really. I'm really haven't really focused on elected officials, because I want to wait until after the 25th is over, so we can see who the leader who will surface on that.
Well, I mean, but even with that, what should we be talking to the county about?
The county
and the state and our state senators.
Well, like I said. The other night I talked to Jamal Bailey. Jamal and I was at a conference on Friday, and Senator Kevin Parker is the head of the Energy Committee for the Senate. And I talked to Kevin, and I talked to Jamal, and I'm going to be having a meeting with them privately to see what we need to do to roll this thing out, and which how it's impacting our folks. So they've agreed to that. I'm just setting a date up with them on that to move forward and to see what we can do to those regulations and making sure things are tighter with Con Edison, as well as NYSERDA, as well as the New York Power Authority. So those are the 3 that are getting involved. They put together $250 million for this program, which is a very small amount, with all the buildings have to be done in Westchester County. But 20% of that $250 will go to the low-income residents. Again, I want to make sure that things is distributed properly. It's nice to have my political colleagues involved in this, but a lot of them, if you're not aware of what's going on, you don't have the history, it's kind of tough for them to speak out on something they don't know.
We need to educate them, and that we need to educate me too.
Well, I'll be more than happy to share, but I'm the kind of person, I like trying to help folks, but I am also a capitalist, okay? I will do what I can to be helpful, but at the same time, I will do what I have to do in order to I'm a consultant. So things that I need to get from Con Edison, I'm going to get from Con Edison. Things I need to get from NYSERDA, I'm going to get from NYSERDA. Things I need from the Power Authority, I'm going to get from Power Authority to help the people in the communities. Because by edict, they have to do those things. And by mentor, we have people that just don't know. And so I don't mind sharing the wisdom, and I'll bring the committees here to Mount Vernon after the primaries, and also I will bring in the Public Service Commission, because I've already been talking to them about coming to Mount Vernon. But I don't want to get this thing to be political.
No, I just asked to know what we can be talking to. A special guest I want to that's a listener, my former pastor in Georgia, who is now a bishop, Bishop George D. Crenshaw from Shore Temple, AME Zion Church in Smyrna, Georgia. Who's now bishop now, is tuned in listening. I wanted to say shout out to him real quick, and I want to acknowledge his presence.
Great. So, but the other thing that I brought to Con Ed's attention, as well as NYSERDA, are churches. A lot of our churches are on oil. Their systems are run on oil. Mm-hmm. And we do a lot of, and ministers do the best, and the trustees and deacons do the best they can do to keep those heating systems running. And I've stressed to Con Edison that that's a big problem we have in our communities. A lot of our churches and our systems are on oil. And we need to find ways to help the churches and help our people in our community to move this thing forward. And that's what I've been also looking at. It's hard when you expect the government just to give you 100% of a product and funding, it's important for them to try to do the best they can. It's like an example, they said, a person told me last week, they said, Marvin, well, you're talking about doing the envelope in your roof and your wall system. What happens to our basements? We have a lot of mildew and stuff in our basements. And I said, I agree, but I can't expect the government to do everything. We have to start doing some things ourselves. So especially people who are seniors, I'm going to do everything I can to help the seniors because they're on a very tight income, and I'm going to do everything to help them. And that's if it means if I can get 100% financing for some of the seniors, we put that in a state mandate. I'm going to do that.
So Marvin, your concern is twofold: that the changeover to non-pipe solutions in response to the mandate for a reduction in our greenhouse gas production is going to affect both individual consumers, but also, and perhaps even more importantly, economic redevelopment programs that are tied to real estate projects.
Correct.
Now that's important because I know the general impression that all of us here in the studio have, although none of us, save perhaps yourself, Marvin, are expert in what's going on with respect to the development in the real estate sector. It sounds like our impression is that real estate makes up a fairly substantial part of redevelopment efforts in lower Westchester County municipalities. Is that correct? Do you have any sense of the scale?
I tell you the scale. It's critical. Right now in New Rochelle, which the big three I named, White Plains, Yonkers, and New Rochelle, all their major leaders, all the major developers had meetings with Con Edison, with NYSERDA, to discuss the problems and concerns of the development in those towns and cities. Yonkers, especially with Chicken Island, New Rochelle, with all the developments going on right now, I think they have about close to $250 million of development in New Rochelle. White Plains has a substantial amount of development in those cities. I had the opportunity to speak with the planning commissioner here in Mount Vernon, and I gave her that we have what they call a Westchester Action Plan. I provided that with her and her staff. I've also talked about this at the city council meeting with the city council people in Mount Vernon to let them know this was a major issue that was going on, and I was going to spearhead and do what I could to help with our city, Mount Vernon. But we have other problems in Mount Vernon. Development is very critical because with development, you reduce property taxes here in this city. People are getting killed with high property taxes in this city. And that's why Yonkers spoke up, White Plains spoke up, and New Rochelle people spoke up because they need that extra tax revenue to keep their taxes low for the residents and to keep cash flow going within the municipalities. That's a major way in order for enhance your bond rating in a municipality. That's how it helps, by having major development in town. So yes, those three cities that I named have spoken up vehemently. Con Ed has come to them. NYSERDA has come. I've gone to meetings with NYSERDA meetings with Westchester Heat Smart team to go talk to folks in New Rochelle. I've personally went and talked to people in Mount Vernon to let them know about this. But I don't want this thing to be political.
So let me.
And that's why we're waiting for this election, and then we'll start coming in to assist because right now it's just too scattered.
So let me just ask real quick. So I hear what you are saying. The three cities that you did mention, they did speak up and they did have meetings. What you're not saying is Mount Vernon doesn't have it because Mount Vernon didn't speak up.
Well, we're kind of, they didn't speak up, but at the same time, I can't blame them not speaking up because right now with some of there's only a little bit of development going on, and there's not a lot of legislation getting passed through some of the city council because certain development projects are not being put through. And that's another major issue
yes.
that's occurring, which we don't need to get into at this time. But there's a few development projects going on in Mount Vernon, and hopefully people were aware of the March 15th deadline. I know Joe Apicella, his group, who's doing the project down on 22 West Street, down by the Mount Vernon West train station, put in his application to make sure he was going to get gas. But you have to have started development, ground up development, and you had to have finished within 2 years. So any development that hasn't started or hasn't been able to do finish construction within 2 years will be on in this new non-pipe solution situation. But what Con Ed has done is that we're going to lift the moratorium. So they're saying that the moratorium is going to be lifted in 2023, but since I'm on a lot of committees, I've been able to see their lease agreement with a major pipeline gas company, but that gas pipeline that's only good for 20 years, and those agreements still are being worked on. It's not all there yet. So when you have a company like Con Edison, they're saying, well, we're working on it, it's not done yet. Do you trust that company like you used to trust that company, or do you look at other alternative solutions to get you moving forward? And right now, a lot of people in the industry right now, Westchester, are saying, Con Ed has this problem. Do we trust them for another 20 years if they get the agreement? But they might not. What happens if they don't get the agreement? Right. What happens if the goals that the state have for emissions and greenhouse gases, we got to meet those goals? And if they're saying they have gas, that's going to give people the comfort level to go back on gas, but it's only good for 20 years, and that's a scary point.
So for the people listening, that totally don't understand all of this, what can they do?
Before we continue, because I think that it's very easy to lose significance of the discussion that we're having about energy policy in the United States. And I think in order for us to appreciate it, we have to set it against the backdrop of a landmark report that was released by probably the UPCC, the Interplanetary Commission on Climate Change, which forecasts that by about 2040, 2050, not only will Earth's climate have heated up considerably, but there are now predictions that we're likely to put into jeopardy a considerable portion of our food supply. And a recent report indicates that there's probably on the order of 1 million species that are going to go extinct within next 4 decades. So although this conversation may be a little bit complex and not easy to follow, we need to have the patience to really peel back the onion and take a real look at why this is of significance in the first place. The impact of climate change is also predicted to hit poor people and communities of color disproportionately. That's and we've seen evidence of this in the disaster in Houston and before that New Orleans, where you had communities of color were the main victims, and the federal, state, local governments were especially slow-footed in offering them up.
And the oceans are rising in Miami.
Right, and Puerto Rico is screwed up. I mean, so even though it may seem like this is esoteric and has no relevance to anyone's immediate lives, I want to assure you.
That's not what I said, but okay.
Well, I didn't say you said that. So I'm just noting why this is an important conversation.
We have a question from a listener, Alita Johnson, and you did speak a little bit about senior housing. What about senior housing? Every winter I get calls from my mother saying she's cold. The windows are cold and she has heaters. And she has to wear jackets during the winter. No insulation, yet the building receives state and federal funds. The heaters are so low a baby can sit on the radiator. Her Con Ed bill is unbelievable. I
can imagine. So that typically you would bring in a home performance person, or you'd bring in a multifamily expert to hopefully the owner will allow that to come in. You do an analysis of that home. You look at the elements of what you think that needs to be done in that home or that building, the entire complex. Because what's happened, I used to work at the state. I worked at HCR, and I provided funding for a lot of the major developers that are doing development today in market rate buildings. So typically what happens is that you get funding, and you find the cheapest way that you can get that place built, fastest way you can get that built.
Absolutely.
And I can't blame the developers. It's really on the state and your project managers who are working with you and other components to make sure things are done the right way. So typically you have a building that's called stick built. That means they're framing their house in sticks, log, and plank. And then they have a lot of modular homes now. And so to answer her question, I can say based on what you were just saying, describing that, there's probably lack of insulation in the walls, probably lack of insulation in the roof cavity of the building. Your electricity bill is going to go up because you're putting heaters on, and that's going to increase your cost because you're trying to keep warm. So it's the way it looks. You have to look at the distribution system of how the heat was distributed initially when the units were built, and how much BTUs would mean gas, or if it's electric, how much it was generating. So that's some of the issues that we have in our buildings throughout Mount Vernon and throughout Westchester County. That a lot of the homes weren't aware. It depends on when it was built. If it was built in the 50s, as I said, you have tar paper between your wall and your window. So that's not insulation, but that's what insulation was in our day.
Back then. So
and tar paper is flammable.
Absolutely.
And tar paper has impact on our health. So that's why a lot of folks in our community, and if my wife was on, she would tell you how asthma has a major impact in our communities. So a lot of these retardants that are in our homes are affecting our communities immensely. So that's why when you potentially do a project, and when on the development side, when we still talk about non-pipe, you do a phase one. You find out what's going on within that ground surface of that ground, and also you find out what's in a building, so you know what the contaminants and what things are in a building. And then if there's a major problem, you do a phase two. And that's why it's so important to these things are done properly through the educated folks from the architects and your design people to do buildings. And that's why when you start this construction or rehabbing a building, you look at these non-pipe solution situations of what you need to get done. So like I said, my major point and my fight with Con Edison, with New York Power Authority, and with NYSERDA is that I want to make sure before this program rolls out, which they're going to start rolling out pretty soon, I want to find a way to make sure the insulation is done in our homes and our businesses, because it's critical.
She just added, and she was thanking you for that, and she said that her mother lives in the oldest senior is in the building, I guess, in Mount Vernon, and she pays top rent.
I think I know where it is.
She's a retired county employee too.
I think I know where it is, and I've talked to certain property management firms to start looking into certain things, and you have to really start going after the owner and the property management firms that manage these things, and making sure you speak up and speak out on those things. Because if you're paying top dollar's it's a lot of money for folks these days.
And that's why, and to rephrase my question I was asking, so for people that are listening, what can they do? Is you said it might not be calling the elected official. What can they do?
Well, what I will do, and I'll have it announced for you guys here, when I bring a public service commission in, people can come out and speak.
Okay.
When I can bring in the Heat Smart team, we'll discuss solutions on that. People can come out and hear. And that's why I've been published. I had the opportunity to publish in Black Westchester to let people know what's going on in different segments. I've published right now in the county press.
Yeah.
To let people know what's going on, and I try to spell it out in the most simplest terms. I tried to send an article to Yonkers Tribune, but they refused my article. But I'll have to talk to you about that, Lorraine, because I think it's important that these kind of articles get out to our communities to know what's going on. And you got to spell out, as you and folks said, to the most simplest terms so people will understand what's actually going on.
And we got to get him the information for Westchester Hispanico. Was that?
And
paper?
Also, I got
whatever.
And what I also did, I had one of my colleagues of all my articles. I had it translated into Spanish because it's critical. People say, "Oh, that's smart." It's not smart. We have to look out for our community and our people. So that's the most important things to me. So anytime I do an article, it's in Spanish as well as in English. But I'll tell you, Lorraine, it's hard to find Latino outlets for the newspapers to make sure it's going in the newspapers because it's hard to find the papers these days.
Yes, it is. It is. They were all going out of business.
That's correct. And so that's what the problem I was having is that I had written up in Spanish and I couldn't find the outlets to make sure the Latino community knew about what was going on and had it translated into Spanish, but it's hard to find those outlets. And that's what we have a problem. Like example, Peekskill is not in the moratorium area, but 55% of Peekskill right now is Latino. Tarrytown is high Latino population. Yonkers, I mean, we have a lot of Latino folks throughout the county in Westchester, especially in the non-pipe solution. Everybody's getting impacted. And Bob, your point of the greenhouse and how important this is, the kids need to be taught about this in elementary school,
Right.
and in middle school, and in college. This thing is a critical issue. When I was in school, it was called ecology, and I wasn't touching the sciences. I was an accountant, but now I see how important this is, and how it's going to impact my daughter and future family and everybody. This is critical. And this is a big thing, and especially in our communities, that we need to start focusing on. And we just can't allow crap to be built in our communities anymore.
Right.
Agreed. Any more questions?
Marvin, so it seemed like one of the implications, you were saying several things. Are you suggesting that essentially many of the poorer cities in southern Westchester, or poorer locales in southern Westchester, could well end up being energy deserts when it comes to...
That is correct, Bob.
Yes.
I didn't want to use that term. I'm trying to be diplomatic here, but
Okay.
you are 100% correct. That's what's happened. I have a gentleman who used to be an executive at Google. He's been pushing me the last 3 months. He said, Marvin, you really got to start focusing on the middle income and low income communities, because yes, the rich folks are going to be able to get these technologies and take advantage of that, and the desert's going to occur in our communities. And I'm very fearful of that.
Right.
Even with the legislation and rollout of this money, it's not targeting, and a lot of folks don't know what energy is when they do an energy review or energy audit. They're not experiencing that. I mean, like I said, I've been doing this for a while, and when I used to do this, people used to laugh at me. Oh, you're doing that? That's crazy. But it's not crazy anymore.
Right.
It's not crazy anymore. And I can look at a home, or I can look at, by doing an analysis, what's going on in that facility, what's going on with that gas or that furnace. Because right now, people who even are on gas furnaces that have converted, they're thinking about behind the scenes. You remember in the United States, we used to have, they did the clunkers for cars, and then they asked all the clunkers, people come in with their cars, and they'll give them upgrade the cars and emissions to get rid of a lot of the cars. They're thinking about doing the same technology, same approach with the gas and oil burners.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about that right now in the halls in Washington and in Albany and all over. Those are the things that have to be done. So yes, the desert is going to start to occur if people don't speak out. If people don't know what they're talking about, they have to really be knowledgeable of this. You just can't go out and just talk about something. You have to be, I've learned from you guys a lot. You got to do your homework.
Well,
You
we take that as a compliment. We're not always giving credit for doing any homework around here.
I mean, for AJ and you guys to give me the opportunity to put articles in like that, that's important. It's not important. It's boring. It's a boring subject right now. But when people get hit, and when it starts getting real cold, and climate change occurs even more, as I sent to you recently, Bob, I sent you the bill that was just enacted last week at the Senate. This stuff is serious. This is no joke. So that's the point we're looking at. I'll bring the folks to Mount Vernon as soon as possible. I just don't want this to be a political issue, because it's not political. This is serious. Screaming and yelling. We need to come up with a concrete plan, and the state has certain plans that I've submitted to the city already. I got to submit it to the city council folks right now to let them look at it. But there's different guidelines that they have that I've been providing people already to look into. I'll just give you one quick example that I didn't realize from a fire standpoint. Let's say you have a fire and you have solar on your roof. How do you turn off that fire? How do you turn off that solar system? The solar system gets rays from the sun. So no matter if the sun is, under the clouds or is at night, you're still getting rays from the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So one person asked me, said, Marvin, so if there's a fire, how do you turn off the solar on the roof? I didn't have an answer for that.
Mm.
I never thought of that. So I looked at the New York State laws on that, guidelines. They didn't have it. So I said to them, you guys need to look at some of the fire codes and have some fire folks involved in some of these new codes that you're bringing in to different municipalities. And also, we also need to make sure each municipality adopts the new guidelines. So when somebody does bring in a new development project of doing non-pipe solutions, that your plumbers are going to be licensed properly, that your electricians are licensed properly, and making sure those permits and fees are collected so each municipality can generate the income from this new technology. This is a new rollout technology. And we do not have enough folks in this industry right now that's rolling out a non-pipe solution at all. I had the opportunity to speak with people at Westchester Community College, the dean, and they focus mostly in the not sustainable energy piece, but they heavily vest their students into the manufacturing. So when we talked about the sustainability piece of how this non-pipe solution is going to be new and inviting, and we have to meet these goals, we're thinking about possibly getting workforce grants to get more students and young people and people involved in this whole process. So this is going to be a whole new cottage industry. It's slow right now, but New York's taken a major lead in the country on this greenhouse gas emissions and also making the levels important to us for us to reach our goals in the state.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a whole new industry, brand new, and we've got to get more young people involved in this. Even old folks like myself, I became very interested in this. I see how important this is to our communities, and we got to start getting more involved in this. It's not, like I said, we got to start studying. And as I said, I'm going to start reaching out. I had talked to Verizon, a gentleman at Verizon TV on Friday. He's done a great number of segments on the Out of Gas called series, and he's getting a lot of pushback on that because people don't want people to know about all this information. So what we've talked about, him and I, is that eventually we will probably do a series, if everything works out, on the low and middle income communities and how that's having an impact on this non-pipe solution and the rollout of the lack of gas. So we got to roll this out. People will get informed. We'll get the forum set up. I'll bring the folks in town to have that happen. But again, I just don't want it to be led by just politicians into speaking out. We need to be bringing people who are very knowledgeable in this field. And also I had the opportunity to meet with a lady, African-American woman. She's been in the environmental field for a long time, for over 30 years. And she just provided legislation in New York City for the rollout of what they need to do in New York City. And so I've talked to her. We're going to look at doing the same thing in Westchester County. She told me to look at the possibility of helping Southeast Queens, which is Ozone Park area, South Ozone Park, where there's a lot of people of color. And we're going to look at opportunities we can assist there, and we'll also possibly look in Mount Vernon eventually. But that's what we're really trying to do to make sure people understand this. Again, people need to study this. Like I said, 20 years I've been working on this, 20 years. And it's been a slug and a haul, but we need more young people to get into these fields. We need these companies that are making money on the energy piece to hire more Black and Latino kids and adults to make sure they understand this. That's what we need, because a lot of these companies are not. They make all the money, but they don't have people that look like you and I.
Right.
I want to thank you for coming to the show.
Thank
It's
you.
a conversation that can't just be discussed in 1 hour. I want to invite you to come back and continue to keep us informed, and continue to write the articles for Black Westchester so we can continue to spread the word. And I'm trying to be more educated about it myself because I don't know a lot of it. I'm learning as we go.
Yes.
From you. So, are there coming to the close of the show? Is there any last words today that you want to say people to look for? Again, websites for people to read up on this stuff, or etc.
Yes, just keep looking for my articles in Black Westchester and Westchester County Press, and hopefully, Lorraine, we can talk to see how we can find and expanding this into the Latino community because it's a very critical issue. I think more of people start looking into this, understanding this more, going on the websites and looking what air source heat pumps are, what ground source heat pumps are. And next few series of articles, I will be spelling that out, what these systems are and how this has an impact and how it's going to affect our communities.
Last words, Bob?
Well, no, excellent. We look forward to continuing the discussion on further episodes.
Lorraine, last words?
Excellent. I look forward to continuing the discussion and to asking a million questions of things that I did not understand. And happy Mother's Day, everybody. Again.
Yes, happy Mother's Day, everybody.
Oh,
And Portland won.
Portland won?
Yes.
Oh, well, there goes the
That's
Denver.
important.
There goes the Denver Milwaukee series, or
Portland 100 and Denver 96.
or the Steph Curry versus Seth Curry.
Yeah.
Those two
My
things.
son was schooling me yesterday.
Those two things are not going to happen.
Steph versus Seth.
But I would like to see someone other than Golden State in there, and I really believe that Milwaukee might emerge from the East, and I
The Greek
would like
Freak,
to see
definitely.
the Greek Freak. Yeah, I definitely wanted. I wanted to see the Greek Freak and the Joker versus the Joker.
Yeah, that would
I
be
thought that
great.
would have been great for the future of basketball. To be
Yeah,
honest,
that'd be great.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in. There was a couple of other people that tuned in later. William O. Wagstaff III, Frederick Allen from the ATL, Glenn P. Butler, a friend of the show, Denise Cardoza Branch, Lat George, of course, Alita Johnson, I mentioned you, Judy Williams Davis, Cheryl Blue, Brownlee Fox, Josiah Sanders, again, I said my former Bishop George D. Crenshaw, Mo Better Perry, Antonio Kelly, Samoan Hines. I'm not sure if I pronounced the first name right. Mark Stuckey, I said that. It was a few of them. Marion Barksdale, Robin Mack. I believe I mentioned most of everybody else. If I forgot your name, I greatly appreciate it. I thank y'all for tuning in. Again, the paper will be out this week. I'm actually haven't had a lot of sleep. I've been working around the clock. I'll be working around the clock tonight to get it to the printer tomorrow. It will be out in a day or two. And you will find it. I'm already starting to work on the June issue, so don't wait till the last minute. Last call for candidates who are running in the primary. We have very few, and I mean very few spots. All the way, we're booked all the way up to the primary almost. So if you do have a candidate that's running in the primary in Westchester and you want to give them on the show, I need to hear from you like in the next 48 to 72 hours, or there literally will not be a spot for you after that. So that's definitely get in touch with us. Caitlin Gleason said robocalls have just started. I don't know what that means. Yes, Oscar, I will do that as soon as I get off the phone. I would actually need the artwork for the ad tonight, though. The print is going to the printer tomorrow, but I will definitely do that. Thank you, Caitlin, for the county legislator's pronunciation of his last name. Yo, you gotta understand. See, I see things from an email. His email is DJT, and then it's like, yo. So I see DJ. But that's it. I very rarely pronounce his name, but he's definitely a supporter of a Black Westchester. I definitely appreciate all his support. Cicely Greaves said, "Have a good weekend, all." Lita Johnson said, "Love Black Westchester. Happy Mother's Day." Cicely Greaves said, "Good." Gail Baxter joined. I left you a message earlier, Gail. I don't know if you heard it. on your voicemail. Other than that, that's it. Next week starts. This is the last week that there will not be candidates going into the primary. From now to the primary, we will have candidates from everywhere: Yonkers, New Rochelle, Mount Vernon, county judges, White Plains and Greenberg, and several other races. We will have, and so tune in. We will try to hopefully, in a little bit of time we have with each, and we will not be taking calls because each candidate has very little time. So we're trying to get as much out and try to inform the public on the candidates so they can make informed decisions at the ballot. So with that said, you could be doing anything else, but you decided to ride with us, and we greatly appreciate it. This is Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show every Sunday 6 to 8 on InTheMixRadio.com, giving you real talk for the community since 2014. Until next week, peace.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And I'm not afraid to say.